Korea has called an emergency meeting at the Kaesong Industrial Complex, but Seoul has ordered South Korean business people not to attend. A mix-up in the skies. An Asiana Airlines flight was forced to turn back to the airport it departed from in Hong Kong to let off a passenger who squeaked by security using someone else's ticket. And the home of late President Park Chung-hee in central Seoul has been disclosed to the public for the first time. Current President Park Geun-hye once lived there. Hello and welcome to News Today on KBS World. It's Tuesday, March 17th. I'm Luke Clary. North Korea has called an emergency meeting for all South Korean businesses operating at the Kaesong Industrial Complex. The meeting is likely intended to pressure the South Korean business people to raise wages for North Korean workers. Seoul ordered the South Korean entrepreneurs not to attend the meeting and will instead hold a separate briefing for them.
North Korea's Central Special Development Guidance Bureau, the overseer of the Kaesong Industrial Complex, has issued an emergency notice to all South Korean business chiefs in the Inter-Korean Industrial Park to convene at the Bureau office at 11 a.m. Tuesday morning. The supposed intent of the meeting was to explain the Bureau's stance on raising wages for North Korean workers and the North's unilateral demand for a revision of labor regulations. It is unusual for the Bureau to directly summon South Korean businessmen instead of South Korea's Kaesong Industrial District Management Committee. Seoul has categorically told the South Korean entrepreneurs in Kaesong not to respond to North Korea's summons, because Pyongyang intends to explain and pressure South Korean businessmen to carry out North's unilateral decision to raise their workers' wages. In response, Seoul called a separate meeting of the chiefs of 124 businesses and sales offices operating in the Kaesong Industrial Park. The South Korean government plans to ask them not to respond to Pyongyang's unilateral demand and explain that there is a way to minimize damage through the Economic Cooperation Insurance Program should the North take retribution and cause South Korean businesses to suffer losses.
A mix-up in the skies. An Asiana Airlines flight was forced to turn back to the airport it departed from in Hong Kong to let off a passenger who squeaked by security using someone else's ticket. Here's more.
An Asiana flight scheduled to arrive from Hong Kong at Incheon International Airport at 5:30 p.m. arrived 4 hours late on Monday night. The delay was caused by the flight being forced to return to Hong Kong an hour after departure.
처음에 인천으로 갈 수 없다고 해서 혹시 문제가 생겼나 그걸 걱정했죠. 그때 혹시 뭐 테러 아닌가 그 걱정을 그다음에 했고 그다음에 테러는 아닌 것 같다라는 얘기를 들었어요.
The plane with some 250 people on board had to return to Hong Kong because of one passenger who boarded the plane using a ticket issued to his acquaintance. The acquaintance was caught when he was trying to board a Jeju Air flight at around the same time, using a ticket issued to the first man. The two had planned to travel with the swapped plane tickets. One of them even succeeded in boarding the wrong plane, while the other did not. The passenger who boarded the wrong plane was apprehended by local police immediately upon his arrival at Hong Kong Airport. Asiana Airlines is also liable for the blunder. Because of its failure to detect the wrong passenger directly before boarding, some 250 other passengers were inconvenienced.
The prosecution investigating POSCO Engineering and Construction's alleged slush funds has summoned a former auditor of the construction company for questioning. It appears that the probe is focused on how slush funds in Vietnam were created and how the money was used.
The prosecution has summoned the former auditor of POSCO Engineering and Construction for questioning. The investigators believe the auditor, who had conducted an internal investigation of the company, knows the whole story behind the slush fund allegations. In its self-audit, POSCO confirmed that slush funds amounting to $8.8 million were created in Vietnam, but that the money was used to give rebates to local companies. However, if the money was smuggled into Korea, in contrast to what the audit found, it's possible to assume that the entire POSCO group may have been involved in the crime and its cover-up. The prosecution summoned former and incumbent POSCO executives last weekend with a special focus on the former executive director surnamed Park, who was in charge of operations in Vietnam at the time of the creation of the slush funds. If the investigators find evidence of the then POSCO leadership's involvement in the case, the probe could follow up on allegations of collusion between POSCO and politicians. However, a source within the prosecution cautioned against such hasty conclusion, saying that only about $8.8 million have been confirmed so far, and that the range of the investigation remains flexible.
Abandoned houses around the nation used to be a serious problem, but recently many have undergone home makeovers, transforming once empty buildings into beautiful structures. Take a look.
These yellow stickers indicate that the houses they are attached to are abandoned. There are approximately 90 such homes in this neighborhood alone. The neighborhood looks filthy and even dangerous, but as you can see from calendars that are over 10 years old, demolishing the houses is not an easy task.
이게 철거하게 되면 나중에 보상을 누가 해주냐? 이제 그런 문제가 이제 현실적인 문제죠.
Instead of demolition, the old houses were given makeovers. Just 2 months ago, this nostalgic cafe with LP music playing on the speakers was an abandoned house. The empty rooms have been transformed into an installation art gallery and a space for performance art.
슬로건을 선정하고 거기에 이제 동의하시는 만큼 찾아오시는 관람객들이 이렇게 머리를 자르는 퍼포먼스입니다.
Empty houses have also been restored in another desolate neighborhood called Gwaengburi. What used to be shanty houses on the verge of collapse have now become a shared workspace for locals. The unsightly deserted structures in cities are being transformed into venues that bring neighbors together.
The Korean education system often appears laser-focused on college admissions, but a new special class operated with the help of a corporation challenges the status quo by encouraging students to be creative instead of preparing for exams.
This hands-on class is all about creativity. Students draw freely on a blank piece of paper. Its purpose is to teach students the meaning of creativity, thinking freely and outside the box.
자기 안에 있는 것들을 의미를 담아내서 내가 표현을 해내는 건데 그 표현이 굉장히 다양한 매체로 표현을 하게끔 해요.
The students write down thoughts about who they are and give shapes to those ideas. No materials are out of bounds. They are allowed to choose on their own and bring out their creative minds the best they can. The results vary widely by students.
이렇게 달린 것들은 풍선이고
A corporate design education program jointly launched by a business and the district education office was open to students for 1 day. It was an unusual experience for these students as it was totally different from their usual learning environment.
학교 교육은 지입식 교육으로만 이루어져서 지루했는데 여기는 창의적으로 마음대로 할 수 있어서 재밌었습니다.
This program for middle school students has been available for 3 years now. Thanks to a great response, more students will be eligible to participate in the program.
The house in Sindangdong, Seoul, where late President Park Chung-hee lived with his family for 4 years prior to this becoming president, has been restored. One of the rooms in the house was used by Korea's incumbent president, Park Geun-hye. The house was unveiled to the public on Tuesday.
This house in Sindangdong, Seoul, where late former President Park Chung-hee lived for 4 years from 1958 until the May 16th coup, has been disclosed to the public. The late president's nameplate is affixed to the gate. The room in which the former First Lady received guests and the late president's study have also been restored. One of the rooms in the house was used by President Park Geun-hye when she was in elementary school.
거주하셨던 그 시기, 그 생활 모습을 보여드리는 데에 주안점을 뒀습니다.
The house is the only surviving structure built in the 1930s culture house style, which combines elements of Western, Japanese, and traditional Korean architecture. Its restoration is meaningful because it is the first of the late president's houses to be restored since the restoration of his birthplace in the city of Gumi. The house has also triggered controversy because this is where the late president planned and organized the May 16th coup.
5.16 쿠데타를 비하하고 또 특정 정치 세력들의 어떤 홍보도로 전락하면서 역기능을 할 수 있다는 점에서 대단히 우려하고 있습니다.
The house was disclosed to the public starting on Tuesday.
Along with its modernization and industrialization, South Korea witnessed the emergence of a new housing style called Yangok, which means Western-style houses. Currently, single-family detached houses in the Yangok style are often seen in alleys of residential districts. Here's the story of a Western artist's reaction to this unique Korean take on Western-style housing.
This work depicts a narrow alley in a residential area where a stairway-like concrete path stretches up. This is an actual scene found in the vicinity of Hongdae in Seoul. This painting graphically portrays a house with a slate roof and an air conditioner fan on top. This is also a scene that can be easily seen in a nearby residential district. German artist Ingo Baumgarten has focused on depicting scenes involving South Korea's Yangok or Western-style houses. South Koreans consider Yangok Western-style housing, but the Western artist has found Yangok as an interesting and unique housing style that can be found only in South Korea.
Gatehouses or these big verandas around, it's very rare that I could see something like that in France or England or Germany or Japan.
In his drawings, he has captured the Yangok houses, which anyone can come across in an alley or which have been forgotten and ignored as old-fashioned. Now, the Yangok houses have been revived in paintings by a Western artist.
The band Busker Busker's song Cherry Blossom Ending is considered by some to be the anthem of the cherry blossom season, since it seems like the song is heard everywhere during the spring. Released in 2012, the song again ranks high on music charts this year. This and more on today's Showbiz News.
그대여, 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 그대여.
Cherry Blossom Ending from the band Busker Busker's debut album released in March 2012 has again topped online music charts with the arrival of the new spring. The popularity of Cherry Blossom Ending has been rekindled every spring since it ranked first on music charts in March 2013 and made it into the top 10 list last year. KBS TV's Concert 7080, a favorite program of middle-aged and older music fans in Korea, will hold a special show on March 21st to mark its 500th broadcast. The group Songgolme, in which the program's host Bae Chol-soo was a member, will stage a tribute performance at the special show. Other featured singers include Sung Si-kyung, Jang Gi-ha, and Hyorin of the idol girl group Sistar. Veteran singer Lee Eun-mi, nicknamed the Barefoot Diva, will begin a nationwide concert tour next month. Lee earned her fame as the queen of live performances with over 900 live concerts since her debut.
Many people drink probiotic drinks to keep their gut healthy. Products containing probiotics are in high demand these days, and you can even make them at home. Here are some tips for taking probiotics. Public interest in probiotics has been on the rise recently as people see the health of their gut as crucial to overall well-being. Probiotics contained in the Korean dish kimchi are especially popular. They're produced in the kimchi juices made with seasonings.
쉴 때 나오는 균이기 때문에 pH에 대한 내성이 강합니다. 그래서 장까지 살아가는 힘이 강한 그런 균들이 많이 추출될 수 있고요.
Probiotics contained in kimchi can be consumed simply by eating kimchi or by buying kimchi probiotics sold in stores. So-called white kimchi, which contains an ample amount of broth, is a rich source of probiotics. When it comes to regular kimchi, the amount of probiotics contained reaches its peak on the 8th to 10th day of fermentation. Interestingly enough, kimchi that's more than a year old contains fewer probiotics. Consuming probiotics efficiently is of particular importance. Only 20 to 30% of 10 billion consumed probiotics actually reach the gut. Therefore, it's important to choose products that contain as many probiotics as possible. Another important aspect is sugar levels.
당도가 10% 미만의 당분이 들어가 있지 않은 유제품을 고르시는 게 요령이라고 할 수 있습니다.
Consumers can find plenty of information on probiotics these days because so many people are concerned about their gut health. Some people think that probiotics should never come into contact with metal.
짧은 시간에 노출에 의해서는 유산균이 죽거나 분해되지 않기 때문에 크게 걱정하지 않으셔도 되겠습니다.
Another misconception is that capsule-type probiotics work better.
1억 마리 이상의 유산균을 먹는다면 코팅이 되어 있건 안 되어 있건 크게 상관은 없는 것을 알고 있습니다.
Some people also think that the more probiotics they consume, the better.
유산균도 살균이라고 그랬잖아요. 그러니까 많이 드시게 되면 우리 몸에 어떤 유해한 작용을 나타낼 수 있는데 대표적인 게 가스가 많이 찬다든지 갑자기 막 설사를 하거나 위장장애를 일으킬 수 있기 때문에 정해놓은 용량 이상을 드시지 않도록 하시는 게.
Experts say that just a bottle of fermented milk a day is enough because it contains about 10 billion probiotics. So when it comes to probiotics, think quality over quantity. Now let's take a look at the markets, followed by the world weather. And that's it for this edition of News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again at the same time tomorrow. Goodbye.